Wow, welcome back for the third video. Today we're going to use the gum tool again to make an inventory UI that will look like this, and we'll use the item slot we built in the last two videos. This is just to show you what the end result will be like after the fourth video, where we can drag items around, we can select them, we can move them in and out of the hotbar. So this would be our full inventory working. One of my hopes is that by making these videos showing the gum tool, I can bring a few of you code-only people into the gum tool world. I personally enjoy working in the tool, but a lot of people don't and they prefer code-only, and that's fine. Another aspect is that I'm hoping this will show everybody how the gum tool works better, how the layout engine works, and some of the hierarchies and structures that you can build to build your own pieces. We'll make 4 pieces in the gum tool. This is, of course, the final item. The 3 pieces we'll make are this title bar up top, and then we're going to make a button and a text object. So we've got, this is that text object, and then this is the button. As you can see, I'm being very explicit in my names here. Inventory, title, bar, icon, button. You can shorten this up however you want. I'm just being explicit for the purposes of this video. This is where we had left off. We have the hotbar and those pieces that belong to the hotbar. Here's a quick summary of the steps we're going to be performing. You can pause it if you want. The inventory title bar icon button will be used for 3 of the icons that were in the preview video. After playing Hytale a few nights, I still don't really see where these buttons exist. From the preview video, but it could be that they're buttons that left during the actual beta, or they could be buttons that only exist in creative mode. I haven't tried that yet, so I'm not sure. So we're going to go ahead and stick with the preview video that I took the images from about a month or so back. That's what we're going to use for this video. Step 1, we're going to create the inventory title bar icon button underneath the components Hytale pieces. Right click, add component, inventory. We're going to set the component's width to 20. So down here, we're going to set the width to 20 and the units to relative to children. This will just make sure that whatever the size of the items, the elements that we add into this, it will have an additional 20 pixels beyond that. We're going to set the height to 5, and again, we're going to do relative to children so that it has 5 additional pixels than whatever the size of the children. I'm going to drag in a 9 slice, name it background. Set the background variable for the source file here. We're going to change this to our PNG that's down under the components, Hytale, and then our Hytale image. We're going to want to select the square image, the one that has 2 or 3 pixels here at the top that are not filled in. We're going to change all the units to center if they're not, so all these are going to stay to center. Now we're going to drag in a sprite. We're going to name this icon sprite. Here you can see those 20 pixels and 5 pixels extra. We'll deal with the positioning of it here in a second. We want to change the source file so that it matches the one that we want to keep using for Hytale. We're going to want to change the texture address to custom instead of the entire thing. By default, it's selecting the entire image. In the bottom left, I'm going to select one of these icons like the sword. I'm going to turn the grid on to make this a little bit easier to snap. We're going to want to make sure that all of these units are also centered. So center, 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 center. We're going to change the color. So I'm going to make this a little bit blue to match the color scheme for Hytale. And the last piece is we want to be able to change this image. We want to expose the texture left and the texture's top. We'll call it start X and start Y. So we're going to go to the start, this would be exposed variable as start X, and the other one we're going to expose as start Y. Because all of these little images are the same size, this will just allow us to change the position of where we're starting so that we draw a different image depending upon different situations. All right, that's the first of our 3 pieces that we need to make. As with before, I'm going to do a quick show here. So we're going to be making the inventory title bar button this time. So right click, add component, inventory title bar button. We're going to set this one's width to 20 also. And then we're going to set its height to 0 actually. And these will the width will be relative to children, but this one we're going to make it relative to parent. The reason why is once we add this in to the full inventory bar, we want to make sure, or the title bar, we want to make sure that however tall we make that, this will align to that height. The icons themselves, these will be setting the bar's height, and so we want this to just follow the height of the rest of the items in that container, in that parent. We're going to scroll down to the bottom of this thing, or we're going to uncheck expose children events. This will just help us later when we're writing the code. We're going to drag up a 9 slice and add that. We're going to name this one background. You should be pretty familiar with this now. We're going to change this image to the Hytale image. We're going to select that region that is just a few pixels shy of a square. If they're not already set, you're going to change them all to center, but the 9 slices default is center. The last piece for the background is we're going to expose the texture left and the texture top. And the reason why is so that we can actually change what this looks like depending upon where this text is. If it's the left side or the right side or somewhere else, we can change this image to look different. We'll expose the left as backgrounds, and then we're going to expose the top as background start Y. The next piece is we need to grab a text and drag that in. We're going to set the X value to 20. We're going to set the Y unit and origin to center. This just make sure that it centers itself here. Let's just do auto sort. We're just going to expose the text here up 1 level. So we're going to expose this text variable up so that the inventory title bar button itself, that component, has access to this text whenever we make an instance of it. Going to make the font bold, size 18, change the color. Okay, again, it kind of looks weird because it's filling the entire temporary screen here, but once we put it inside of the other piece, it will look fine. So that's our second, and now we're going to make the third piece, which is the title bar itself. Here are those steps if you wanted to take a screenshot or pause it. All right, this next one's going to be called Inventory Title Bar. We're going to set its width to 960 pixels exactly. We're going to set its height to 0 and then relative to children. Add in a 9 slice. And as you probably already guessed, we're going to name it background. We're going to change the image. And then we're going to pick the dark double-rounded background here. The reason why this is flat is because we've set the parent here to height of 0 depending upon children, and the child is set height 0 depending upon parent. So right now, there's no children that tell the parent how large to be. Let's add in a forms stack panel. So we're going to go up to controls, and from the forms controls, we're going to pull in a stack panel. I'm just going to use stack panel instance. I ran out of good names. We're going to set its width units to parent and 0. And then we're going to set its height units to children. So children and 0. We're also going to set its children layout to left to right stack. Let's add a spacing of 1 pixel. Now we're going to drag in an instance of the inventory title bar button. Let's name this title. I know a lot of this is kind of confusing because we're adding pieces and there's no real visual width or height yet, but that will change once we add in the next item. So now on this same title, we're going to change the width element here so that it's going to be ratio, right here, ratio to parent. And we're going to set this to the value of 1. And this will just allow this to take up the remainder of the space once we add in the rest of these items that are going to be in the stack panel. And I actually forgot to put this in the stack panel here, so I'm going to drag it into the stack panel. Let's change the text here to inventory, since that's what it's supposed to be. We're going to drag 3 of the icons in, so 1, 2, and 3. You can see how now it actually has a height, and it's starting to look like an actual inventory bar. We're going to name the first one filter weapons, the next one filter armor, and the final one filter items. All right, now we're going to drag in another one of those inventory title bar buttons. So another one of these. We're going to name this auto sort. I'm going to be a little bit lazy here, so we're just going to drag in another one of these title bar buttons again, the ones that are just text basically. I'm just going to name this one change sort. And then we're just going to do a slash and a slash. Just going to make it look like it's an actual drop down there. If you actually edit your PNG file, it might be better to use one of the icon buttons, and then you can just select the icon that would be your image for the drop down for the auto sort. Alternatively, you could just make up your own component for this instead of reusing one of the other ones. Now, we need to change the backgrounds because if we zoom in, you can see that there's this weird kind of overlap, and so we need to change which background is being displayed. So let's go to this inventory, which is the title, and we need to change what is being displayed. So we need to change the X and the Y. Rather than guessing, we can go back to the actual object, this icon, and we can try to figure out what we wanted to use. And so this is going to be the companion to the inside of the left side here. So we want this. We want to select this actually. And so now we can see that that's 216 and 48 versus, if I undo that, it was just 216. So we're just going to change it to 48. So going back to the title, we're just going to change this to 48. And now we should have that rounded image selected instead over here. And that's because we exposed the left and the top of the 9 slice so we could be able to edit those later like we're doing right here. That fixes the left side, but we need to fix the right side now because of the same thing over here on the right side. It's kind of cut off, and so we want to change this to be the right side. So again, go back to the background, go back to the texture coordinates, and see what the positioning of this right one is. The right one would be down 48 and then over 24. So we can just add 24 to the other position. And we can even just move this to check. I moved it over here. It's 240, and I don't have it just right. There we go. 240 by 48. And I'll Control Z to undo that. Undo it again. There we go. Going back to the right side, we're going to change this to 240 by 48. And now we have that other image. Now let's change these 2 images. This one's supposed to be armor. So we have to go down to this icon bar. And we need to grab this icon sprite. And we need to figure out what let's see, armor. So maybe a shield or, oh, that mask works good. Let's mask. So what is this? Snap to grid. That looks like it is at, says 32 and 800. So we'll use that. Let me undo. Okay, so going back to this one, it's going to be 32 by 800. Yep, now we got a shield there. And then the next one here is items. Let's go look for something that looks like an item. What do I got over here? We could use this little gem looking thing, or maybe this. Let's use this one over here. So actually, let's do this swirly thing. That is 192 and 832. So undo. There is the image that we wanted. So that's it for the third piece. The last thing we need to do is put this all together with the item slot that we built previously so we can make the inventory. And the steps will look like this. Add it here to the Hytale layer, and I'm just going to call it InventoryPanel. Or you can call it Inventory UI or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to set the width and the heights to children. So width to depending upon children and children. And generally when you do that, you want to set the width and the height to 0 unless you're intentionally adding a buffer or a border. I'm going to set the children layout of this thing to top to bottom stack. I'm going to go to the pieces and drag in our inventory title bar. There we go. Let's drag in just a standard container. We're going to call this main container, or whatever you want to call it. We're going to set its width to 0 and relative to the parent right here. But the height we're going to set to 20, and we're going to set that relative to the children. Add a 9 slice, and hopefully you can guess what we're going to be calling this. That should have went inside, so we want it to be inside the container here. We're going to name this background. My favorite name, apparently. Set the source image to our PNG for Hytale that we've been using for everything. We're going to set all of this thing's units to top and left over here. Pick the inventory background sprite. Add another stack panel. So controls, stack panel, and drag that into the main container. Let's name this item stack panel. Set the Y to 20. Set its X units to origin and center. Set the width and height units to origin and center. So we're centering everything on this control. Set the children layout of this to a grid. Auto grid horizontal. We're going to use the stack spacing, and we're going to say 7 pixels. We're going to have 9 cells by 5. That will be our 9 inventory cells, and then the 5 different rows of that. Add a single item slot to the stack panel. Now just click on it and do a Control-C to copy and a Control-V, and just paste this a whole bunch of times. You want to have a total of 45, including this first one. Okay, now we got 44 of them, and I'll just rename this first one to 45. So that way we get 1 through 45, and then I'll reorder it by dragging it down here to the end so that we now have 1 through 45. I forgot to set the width and the height on these to 0 for the item stack panel itself, and then also to set the width units and the height units to children. Additionally, you want to leave the Y units and the Y origin set to the defaults. Right click, make default, which will make it look like this. So it's actually centered, and that's it. We've now built the entire inventory, and we're going to do the rest of the changes of hiding the slot numbers and populating the items in Monogame. And I'll do that in the next video. So this video is 100% GUM, and the next video will be like 95 to 99% Monogame. Until next time, have a good one. Join us on Discord, message down below, or like and subscribe.